How much money does it take to be happy? Can you buy happiness, Kevin? Well, we're going to dig into the research and we're going to answer that question. I think the first thing that comes to mind for most folks is a study that got lots of attention. It was quite popular. It came in 2010. I'll pull it on the screen here. It came from Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton from Princeton University in 2010. They essentially said happiness matters, but only to a point, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, basically the study that came out basically said that you're good with everything until about 75,000. So as long as you continue to go up and up and up to that point, and then after that, happiness levels at plateaus. So whether it's 75, 100, 150, 200, really doesn't make much difference after the age of 70 or after the income of 75,000. You sort of plateau and your happiness is done, and that's where it's going to stay. So again, is happiness related to income? Well, according to this study, up to a certain point, but after that, there is no more incremental increase that goes on. But is that the only study out there that we really have to look at? And is this the one that we follow?
There's lots. We just have to keep in mind just how widespread this knowledge was when the study came out. And there was a story of Dan Price of Gravity Payments. It was an upstart tech kind of company, and he raised the minimum salary of all of his employees up to this level based on this study. So it did get lots of traction, the idea that there's a plateau and that you don't really get much happier once you get beyond that plateau. They use 75,000. You could argue it depends on where you live, cost of living, all that kind of stuff. But the concept that there would be kind of a plateau and beyond which you're not really getting a whole lot happier with that extra money. And then groundbreaking stuff here, Kevin. Matthew Killingsworth in 2021, so this is more recently from University of Pennsylvania, said, you know what? There's not really a plateau. His study found that people like money and their happiness continued to rise even with extra income. So you're getting the exact opposite thing here. You're getting the idea that more money does lead to more happiness, according to Killingsworth and his study in 2021. So you're having two sides of the coin here. The first one said, yeah, there's a plateau. And then there's more recent data said, well, I'm not finding any plateau. And then this is my favorite part here, Kevin, how they resolved this. You kind of had the Avengers of science. You had a team up here. You had Killingsworth as well as Kahneman. They actually teamed up to say, all right, how come we're getting different results here? And they went through each other's data, and they actually came to a bit of a conclusion in terms of wealth and happiness, at least based on the study they've done. And I put the first one on the screen here, and this just came out a couple months back. So you can see the date there, March 2023. So this is kind of the latest analysis on wealth and happiness.
Yeah, so they've taken basically a combination, right? It's sort of like, well, depending on how you are emotionally, I mean, if you're a grumpy person, if you're a really happy person, if you're sort of, average and in between, how you are will actually depend on, what your happiness level is depending on your income. I mean, that's the biggest factor that they're coming. They're saying, as opposed to just hitting that certain plateau level beforehand where this amount of money makes you happier and anything beyond this doesn't. Now what they're saying is that depending on what your emotional state is, that will help with where your decision is for how much money you're making. If you make this much money and you're happy, maybe you're happier. If you make this much money and you're not, maybe you're not happier. So your emotional state will now have as big an influence as the amount of money that you're making.
Absolutely. And it kind of makes sense. It's a more nuanced approach. And they're saying on average for most folks, higher incomes are going to result in more happiness. But like you said, it depends on your starting point. And they used 100,000. And keep in mind, the first study there by Kahneman was done in 2010, used 75. So this one came out in 2023. Well, 75 then, maybe it's worth kind of 100 now, give or take. So they used a different plateau, but the same concept. And like you said, that initial well-being, the initial emotional well-being has a big impact on how you might react to the additional income. And they found the least happy group, like you said, some folks are just grumps. Well, money's going to help them to a point, but then they're going to hit a plateau. In this case, they said 100,000, beyond which the extra income didn't really help with their happiness. Then kind of the middle range, which would be a more average individual. Well, yes, they would experience some more happiness with additional income. And then the happiest group here, Kevin, and again, they're looking at folks before the rise in income, saying, what's the emotional well-being? And the top tier, they're the happiest folks. They're even happier. It accelerates their happiness when there's additional income. So the whole idea, can you buy happiness? Well, it depends, right? What they're telling you here is it depends on your starting point, your emotional well-being. And I think the kicker is if you're a really happy individual, you probably don't need the extra money. You're probably already happy. But if that's the case, extra income could probably make you even happier. That's what they're finding with the results here. Is any of that surprising for you?
No, I think that makes perfect sense for a lot of it. Let's remember, I mean, most people in general are they're either they could be the eternal optimist, the eternal pessimist. But again, we are either a glass half full or a glass half empty type of person. So
Yeah.
if you're a glass half empty, then yeah, I mean, you're always looking for more, and you hit a certain point, but it's not going to increase. If you're a glass half full sort of guy, if you fill the glass completely, I'm even happier. Or it could be middle of the road. Okay, as long as I've got a half glass of water, I'm fine. And if that glass increases in size, great, I'm going to be fine with half of that as well. So it does make sense in those sort of scenarios as to what your real scenario or what your real emotional connection to this looks like and how much more you get. I mean, as incomes go up, people naturally have some sort of a happiness factor to it. But yeah, you're going to hit a plateau if you're not really a happy person. And, if you're an extremely happy person, well, yeah, now I've got more money. Maybe I can do more charity work. Maybe I can do more of this. And so, I can give away, or I'm going to make the rest of the world as happy as I am.
That starting point matters. And I'll pull up the data. This is directly from the study, the one that came out in 2023. You can see all the citations there. It is publicly available. It is free to use. You can go to those sources and you can dig through the report yourself. Some of the graphs here, they divided people based on initial emotional well-being. So the 15th percentile would be the most unhappy group. And you can see the red slope there, the red line, their happiness is increasing. Then they get to a point of roughly 100,000. And then you have that turquoise line, that blue line, and it kind of plateaus. There's not much of a change. That's for the most unhappy group. The 30th percentile, the 50th percentile, in my mind, that would kind of be like the average individual, somewhere in between, not the extreme unhappy, not the extreme over the top happy, somewhere in the middle. And you can see it kind of continues. The slope of the red line, and then you get to the 100,000 mark, and then you see the blue line, and the happiness kind of continues at a similar pace to what was before. Then you get to the two groups at the top there, Kevin, the 70th percentile, the 85th percentile. So those are the groups where their initial emotional well-being was quite high. Relatively speaking, they're the happiest groups. And you can see the blue line there, or I'm calling it the turquoise line, it kind of takes off. The slope increases after the 100,000 mark. So they're initially quite happy, and then you can see additional wealth, additional income actually accelerates their overall happiness. So the extreme results there, some really happy folks get even happier with more money. Some grumps just are never satisfied and kind of plateau. And then everyone else in the middle, it's kind of a linear equation. Well, yes, some more money would likely make you a little happier in between there. So we covered lots and lots of details there. If someone had questions, Kevin, on this or any other financial item, where would they go?
They would go and visit chatwithclintonandkevin.com. By all means, give us your questions, whether it's on this topic, any of our other videos, or just anything that you want to know information-wise about the financial markets. Please give us a call, or should I say, please give us an email. List the questions for you. We'll get back to you immediately, and hopefully we can help out with what your situation is. Other than that, I do think we've covered things. I think typically we're both happy people, so it's always nice to see the way things go. I'm not in that grumpy mode today. Again, depends on what the market looks like by the time I'm looking at it, but those could be things that deter what's going on. Otherwise, I think we've covered this video pretty well. Any closing remarks, Clint?
Yeah, we have other videos on wealth and happiness. It can be a complicated topic. So if you like this video, you'll certainly love those other ones on wealth and happiness. So click on that and we'll see you there. Take care.